Hello and welcome back, everybody, to part 2 of our second module of Jimmy Fame Presents Bonus Against the Machine. More pod for your bod, sponsored by Charlie the Lizard Folks Chicken Emporium. More cluck for your buck. We are picking up from where we left off with our group of intrepid investigators made up of a quartet whose names, as far as they can tell because they have amnesia, are Marlon Jackson, Obadiah Madison, Colm Driscoll, and Cyrus Peanutman Montgomery II. Our heroes awoke to find themselves with no memory of themselves or each other or really anything at all, trapped in a van, crashed on the side of the road in the middle of a cornfield, just apparently out in the middle of nowhere. After searching around and finding some clues, including some business cards claiming that they're part of something called Fright Finders, as well as a few pieces of ID identifying them all, they have decided now to attempt and get Cyrus, who was injured in the crash, a bit patched up, and then head out, leaving the safety and comfort of their van, the only home they've ever known, to head in the direction of what appears to be possibly a house or some other sort of building that they can see glowing off in the distance. So let's check in with everybody now and see what we're going to do here at the start.
Now, looking at this here first aid kit before we travel, do any of you fine fellow employees of the Fright Finders feel as though you might have some sort of skill in perhaps keeping Cyrus Peanutman's cerebral fluids inside of his cranium?
I believe I'm about average in that regard. No particular skill whatsoever, but if I were to put a number to it, I would say it's the default, about 30%.
I, too, feel approximately average in my capacity to fix our friend's head here. I'm not at all confident, but...
Now, Sai, do you yourself have any medicinal proclivities that we might be unaware of? I do understand it's strange for a man to operate on his own skull. However, if the rest of us are just average and you happen to be supra-average, or whatever the word is for above, I think people just say above average, perhaps you ought to be the one to go ahead and apply that bandage, as it were.
I appreciate the vote of confidence, my friend, but I can tell you I wouldn't know a medulla oblongata from a bag of gooba peas.
That's the sound from the blood loss.
Yes, does anyone want to try to first aid Cyrus? If you succeed the roll, he gets that hit point back.
First kill.
I assume that Jeff was going for it. I don't know how.
No.
If we all roll and then say that we all reached for the first aid kit at the same time and the fastest person got there first. That will die. Okay, I've just dropped one of my dice on the ground, so I'm out.
What did it land on?
A 9, and then what's this other one? Oh, that's a 90. And I'm pretty sure we said that's super bad, right? 99 is just the worst.
99 is super bad.
Oh wait, 99?
Or what? That wasn't 99 total?
Yeah, no, that's 99.
Yeah, 99. He did.
I immediately murder my friend.
Oh no.
Okay, so Marlon attempts to help Cyrus, and he finds a set of sutures in the kit and attempts to close up his head wound, dealing another point of damage by just not having any idea at all how to do this.
Just over the sound of Cyrus screaming, Marlon's like, now if you just hold still for just a second, I'm pretty sure that my grandmother taught me this here whip stitch back when I was sewing pants for my cousins as we are wont to do. Probably. I don't have memory of anything in particular, but for some reason that does stand out. Now, it ain't pretty, but it's also not healed, so
it ain't pretty, and it also don't work. So just
not
slap him in the face when the sutures
critical.
fail, dealing 1 point of damage.
But that is quite a bit of extra blood.
It does seem to be bleeding more than it was. I may not be the person to do this.
Perhaps we would impose upon this distant structure for said medical attention and other forms of, dispensation of care.
Well, all right. Now that we all seem to be in some kind of order and shape here, maybe we head off towards them there lights. We should maybe gather something from the van. Any of this look particularly useful? I don't myself, assume that we will need any weaponry. However, it does seem like maybe we'll just hang on to it for trading purposes.
I mean, if you keep it in the locked box, like, no one's going to know it's a gun in there. And I will say you did also find a couple of long-barreled flashlights on top of the smaller flashlight that was in the glove box in one of the cabinets in the back. And you do have 2 working short-range walkie-talkies.
I believe there was a mention of night vision goggles.
You did find what appeared to be a pair of night vision goggles. And oddly enough, Colm knows how they work.
So I think Colm will definitely put those on his head, but not actually, over his eyes, just, sitting on his head. Because, some things just feel right. And take that EMF reader, because he was so excited about it.
Well, the EMF reader wasn't there. It was just the charging station, the charging port for it.
Look sadly at the charging port.
And, Combe Stickman, being as though my name was upon the registration in the glove box, I will politely request that you hand the keys to me.
Yeah, sure. You can have the keys. I will, I don't feel that driving is really my forte after, I did that. We'll hand the keys over.
Thank you kindly.
Oddly enough, as you go to hand the keys over, Obadiah, you notice you already have, on the keys you found when you were checking yourself, another of that same van key. You appeared to have both had it. And as you're looking through Colm's keys, because I'm assuming he just handed you the keys that had been stuck in the ignition of the thing, which is this whole key ring, you see on it also a duplicate of the small round hollow key that opens the little portable gun safe.
Obadiah will keep that to himself for now. Because all he knows is that Stickman wrecked the van and nearly killed Peanut Man, Smashed all of our phones. There's a lot to answer for.
Poor Stickman.
Cyrus, Peanut's still rattled, looks about his group, and just makes recognizing the forlorn faces that his companions, he says, well, I certainly hope there are no children here. It would be terrible to run into the kids of the cob. Holds up a bit of corn and shakes it slightly in Marlin's direction.
I do appreciate the concern, but this does not seem like the time for levity. You are bleeding profusely from the head, despite my best efforts. We are surrounded by the corn you speak of, and have only 3 to 4 flashlights and a couple of keys to our names.
Well, I mean, according to the ever-increasing amount of material that I am blotting the blood from my very skull, that is emitting at an alarming rate. I do believe I am still an on-air talent / host, and I can pronounce those words correctly.
As well you should be able to.
Or I can't because I suffered a concussion.
I do apologize for that. I had forgotten.
We could try again to cut the concussion out. I I'm not a doctor.
Just starts applying leeches to the side of my head. This is what you need.
If we remove the damaged part of the brain,
I'm impressed that first aid kit has leeches in it.
Now, perhaps in our frat-finding experience, we could just exorcise your concussion. I don't know. I'm simply an assistant.
Well, given that I'm the lead sound technician, I believe, I too can provide no help. I don't know why I thought that was going to be useful or where I was going with that when I started talking. I apologize.
I was merely making a joke at the expense of a large horror franchise before we started the conversation about what is that you recommended? Trepanation of my darn skull? Now, let's just head on towards this light.
Yeah, as we've been walking and spending the entire journey discussing the first aid possibilities.
And Sam's like, let's drill a hole in his skull. Let the ghosts out.
You gotta let them breathe. It's like aerating soil, you know?
I think as they're walking along, and Colm is trying to dissuade himself from the skull surgery that he thought was a pretty good idea. He said, were there any more of those text messages on the phone that survived our little culvert mishap back there?
I believe there was at least one more. Mr. Peanutman, did you want to share that with the class, as it were?
There should be messages from Neil, Marlon, Coleman, and Romania.
Prior to my most recent administration of first aid, I was able to read my screen, but I find myself seeing geometric shapes at the corners of my eyes. So perhaps someone would disabuse me of the responsibility of reading these missives.
I've already read quite a few myself, and if I am not mistaken, received quite a shock from one of them, so I will pass. Thank you.
Throws up slightly. Totally normal response to all of the first aid he's received.
Well, Colm, seeing as one of the message threads appears to be from your personage, perhaps you wouldn't mind obliging us as we walk.
So Colm is holding up the phone and he says, how much do you trust that Obadiah guy? That was from me, by the way. To which Mr. Peanutman respond, he's nice enough kid, why? And then I said, I don't know, just something about him. Lifted the spare key to his backup plan. He'll probably notice eventually, but if we need it at the house, I can grab it. I wonder what that's about. That seems dubious.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, two of these characters seem to be playing out. In fact, I'd say three of the four of us here do seem to be involved. And one of these characters seemed to be talking about stealing from another. So I don't mean to apply any sort of bias or even intonation to that, but it does seem mighty suspicious to me that you, Mr. Stickman, yourself, have claimed to have lifted something from our good friend Obadiah Van Morrison.
Van Wilder, but I do appreciate.
Sorry, I was like, I didn't know that we already made that joke. Why is that funny? I only know one Van.
Yes, I must say, for someone who is questioning myself, you managed to perhaps steal a key and then crash our van and send us on to this predicament, so I'll just have to be keeping my eye on you.
Well, I have to say that doesn't sound like me at all.
I must ask, my dear narrative friend, do you have on your person a key that fits our good friend and currently armed compatriot's box?
I gave the keys I had, other than the number 5 key, to our dear friend Van Wilder.
Yes, to answer your query there, sir, I did indeed see a key that looked right to be identical to the one guarding the old Smith & Wesson. So,
I who am I to say but a host and on-air talent that we should perhaps let bygones be bygones and firearms belong to the people who own them? As we approach this house, maybe we just, quell the mention of firearms altogether. Perhaps that's just unnecessary. I'm bleeding profusely, and my words are just losing definition as I continue.
While I am sorry to hear about your predicament, which, as we all can recall, I did try to improve at y'all's request, I do believe that as we head into this, strange land here, to which we may have journeyed before, unclear, we leave the mention of the fire guns off the table. Fire guns?
Dang old fire guns.
Doesn't know what a phone is and doesn't know what a gun is.
So,
It's got a light-up box and a fire gun. Did anyone check Mr. Hartman for a concussion?
well, I would be interested in seeing the thread from him on that old BlackBerry.
Well, sure, I don't believe I have anything to hide, but
I certainly hope to not have any slanderous accusations against my trustworthiness.
Let's see. From Marlin, I stole Combs' phone earlier and sent a distrustful text message. I'm joking. I'm joking with you all. No levity. All right. Marlin says, completely serious. Passwords like that are a fisher's dream come true. To which Peanutman replied, so what should I use instead? And Marlin said, advice I gave Holly was to pick something tangentially related to the show and change it often.
Fright Finders 2, probably.
What do you mean Peanutman rules is not an acceptably strong password?
Even if I use a Z in place of that S?
Of course I use a Z in place of that S.
Well, what if you make the E a 3? Because a 3 is like a backwards E.
And then add 3 exclamation points and 1.
Easy to remember.
This is great radio and very relevant to the show.
Yeah, Jason, all of our SciSec crowd is going wild right now. They're just like, man.
That's a surprisingly large portion of our listeners.
It really
Half
is.
the group, at least.
Yeah.
I will say, as you've been examining this phone and talking and walking, you are getting now close enough to see that the building in the distance, which is now much closer, does appear to be a rather large and nice farmhouse. You see there's a fence around it that you can see coming out from a clearing where the corn ends. It's still maybe 500 yards up the road, possibly enough time to look over a final text message, maybe not.
That last text message is from N, but N is in quotes, so you can't see it, but I'm doing the air quotes very kind of while holding the phone. N said, you're meeting her at 6? And Sai said, 5, going to the house at 6, but want to do the interview in full daylight. N said, if you're serious about the voice mod, I'll give you mine. Same place as last time, 2:30.
Did we find it? We didn't find a voice anything. Or anything that we would identify as a voice mod.
No. You found very little, actual equipment at all. Most of what you found is, accessories, like extra batteries, windsocks, clips, gaffer's tape, just stuff that you would use with equipment, but the equipment itself did not appear to be, by and large, in the van.
So, backtracking based on these here assembled text messages and, the accoutrement we have found on ourselves and in the van, it does seem like we were headed out here to some sort of haunted area, possibly a house owned by a creepy person or persons, to produce this here show, leading, with our good friend Cyrus here. One can assume perhaps we left in a hurry because we are missing a fair amount of equipment and we also crashed into something and the normal driver was not driving at the time.
Are you saying I'm not normal?
Now, I am saying that, yes.
That's deeply hurtful. But fair.
I don't know what else. I'm just trying to be honest. It was not my intent to offend you. However, if you were offended, I apologize for it.
Your height in inches is greater than your weight in pounds, so I would say that is decidedly not normal.
Well, okay, you cannot just comment on his physical being like that. That is...
I mean, give the man a sandwich. Perhaps a hot chicken sandwich.
We have only corn to offer.
Now, I don't mean to bring this conversation to an end, and don't get me wrong, I would love to have our friend plump as a dumpling if I had any hand in this. However, despite whatever it was before this crash that previously was our vocations, we are now but stranded travelers amidst the calm. We must get to this house. We need help. Whether we're searching for ghosts or grits, it don't matter. We need to get inside this house and hopefully get on a phone. Call Holly, call Ann, call anybody else. Got way more southern in the last 5 minutes. The more blood I lose, the more southern
it's
I
the
get.
concussion. Yeah. Now, listen, I don't disagree, and I do believe that we are left with very few other options, but I do think it worth it to consider if we were on the run from something, even just an unhappy a guest appearance or guest person on the show that we produce or radio production, I don't know. We might be, if we're wandering back into dangerous areas, perhaps we keep that gun unlocked. Still inside the box, still off the table, but I'm just saying, maybe we ought to be on our guard. These strange text messages do seem to be mighty anxious. And then we could just keep walking over to their house.
Do you mind, perhaps, with an element of a gentleman's subterfuge, which I know you are so capable, perhaps I don't know, arming thyself with thy contraption?
And, Obadiah, I don't think he would have been walking around with a little portable gun safe. I would have left that box in the van. But, yeah, I guess he might have.
All right, let's RP all the way back to the van. Let's go. Come on.
Shoot, we forgot it.
I knew I forgot something.
Van to electric boogaloo.
Just like that. He would have done his best to load this thing, but it has the safety on, and he's kind of tucked it onto an inside pocket of his sport coat, which definitely won't look like a gun when it moves wrong. He doesn't have a holster or anything. He's not the Western wear gentleman. That's Marlon.
Yeah, so as you come up upon this house, you see it, as I said, it's a very nice 2-story farmhouse, whitewashed, has a metal fence up around it with a wooden fence gate, like very kind of rustic but well put together. And you see there's also a wooden sign on a post inside the gate, but angled so that it's facing out to the street, that says the Fremantle Farm, 1877.
Does that name mean anything to any of us?
No, it doesn't really seem familiar at all to any of you. And you do see what appears to be a light on up on the second floor, maybe in a bedroom.
Well, it does seem like someone's home, at least. Maybe we wriggle around the front there and knock on the door. Can we see a door?
You do see a door, but there is a rather long path up to it on the other side of this fence.
So, Jero, we spent several hours getting out of a van and then walking here. Is it like 7 a.m. now instead of 3:15?
It's starting to get light out. I'd say, with how long you guys are doing it, I'd say plus the walk, I'd say it's probably been 2 hours, because you weren't going to be walking too fast with Cyrus's head.
And he's very
so
old.
It's about 5 a.m., so you're starting to see a little bit of dawn coming up, and that might be, at first you think maybe that's why the light was on, but then you're also like, well, the light was also on like 2 hours ago. Maybe somebody's just an insomniac.
Cool. Well, that's a little more reasonable for a farm than 3 in the morning.
So you said we can see a door, but it's like far away, like far enough that we might consider.
Mm-hmm. But you do think like somebody probably awake, like if you want to maybe call up to the, like just yell out, like it's close enough they're going to hear you if you yell from the road.
You could shoot the gun up in the air.
Go ahead and shoot that gun right on through the window, get someone's attention.
Let them know we mean business.
We are not to be messed with.
You'll find some frat.
We call that the Texas hello.
Speaking of, not to drag this out too much longer, but if any of you really examine your driver's licenses, you may notice some interesting dates for several of you on them, having to do with Texas. Though you might not know unless you're actually, I'll compare them, which now I just realized might be kind of hard to do. So I'll just tell you, you notice all of you except for Marlin seem to have gotten your Texas driver's license within a couple of days of each other last year.
It's mighty interesting. Maybe we further discuss that after we shoot this gun in the air.
Yeah, so what do you do to try to get the attention of this house? Does when you like jump the fence, do you yell up to the house, do you fire through the window?
You said there's a gate. Is the gate locked?
Yeah. Do you try it?
Sure.
Okay, you try it. It is not locked, actually. You see it has like a latch, but it just flips up. It's got a spot where you could attach like a padlock to it, but it does not have one.
We're certainly not attempting to make any alarmingly stealthy approach. I imagine we might have already been spotted, so if we just sort of casually walk towards the front door and give it a polite knock, we may find that yelling is not necessary.
I don't disagree. Maybe we, it just seems polite. It's awful early in the morning or late at night, depending on how you look at it. We don't want to go spooking anybody too early.
You guys casually walk up to the house. I'm guessing one of you knocks on the door, and you hear some movement inside, and after a little bit, you kind of see a bit of a shadow. It's a double door with like glass insets in it. It's got curtains over them, but you see a shadow on the other side of the curtain. After a moment of maybe like trying to peek through, a gentleman opens the door, and you see an older African-American gentleman, and he looks at all of you and he sees Cyrus with his head wound. He goes, are you okay? Molly! And as he yells the name Molly, the two of you that have yet to give me grip rolls instead hear the name Holly. And I need a roll from Sam and a roll from, I believe, Zach was the other one.
Mm-hmm. All right. Cyrus rolled a 2. Oh. Under 25. No, under 35.
Cyrus is
35.
fine.
I've got a 33 under 45.
Okay, so you are both able to hang on to your grip. And after thinking about a second, you realize he didn't say Holly, he said Molly. And a woman, still in her nightgown, comes down the stairs behind him, looks roughly the same age, and she sees you and she goes, "Oh, are you folks okay? Do you need help? What happened?" And they are going to usher you into the house.
Well, my friends and I appear to have just been into a minor car accident just a little bit down the way from here, and we saw your house from a distance, so we assumed that perhaps you would, in the spirit of neighborly community, provide a little bit of aid to some travelers.
Of course. Molly, go get the phone. I'll call 911. What were you folks even out doing at this time of night? Or this hour of the morning, rather?
Well, it took a good 3 or 4 hours just to get out of that van.
We don't rightly know what we've been doing. I'll be honest with you, if we didn't have our IDs on us, we wouldn't even have remembered our own names. It appears quite to have been a traumatic experience.
Yes, but we do thank you for your hospitality, sir. Well, that is all I have to say until your wife or the good friend, whatever, gets back.
That's my wife. That's Molly. This it's a little embarrassing. This is actually her farm. It's been her family. Well, like the sign there shows, 1877. Great grandmother Abigail was the original owner. Sorry, Jim Mason, and he puts his hand out.
I'll say 1877. I do believe that's the year that Cyrus over there was born.
Yeah, within a year or two, my young and sprightly friend. My name is Cyrus, and that's about as far as I go. I believe it's Montgomery II, but you can just call me Cyrus, as my friends here do. Well, I appreciate your hospitality. Do you have a working phone and perhaps an understanding of exactly where we are?
Well, yes. Molly should be on the phone now, up to the chief's office in Hemingford. You folks, you're not from Hemingford, are you? I don't recognize any of you. I know just about everyone in town.
Now, Hemingford is part of which region of the place where we are? Hemingford what?
And looks at you for a second and shakes his head. Crash must have been mighty bad. Hemingford in Buttebox County, Nebraska.
Hemingford, Nebraska.
Hemingford. Pats his form a bit, pulls out a key with the black paddle and points. Does this look familiar to you, my friend? It appears to have some H's on there. Now, few of my compatriots have one. Perhaps you would know. Does this correspond to a lodging in this said Hemingford?
Sure does. It corresponds to the only lodging in Hemingford. It's not exactly New York City, you know. The Hemingford home is the only motor hotel in the entire town.
That would logically follow why we are patrons of such an establishment. Now, it's hot in here. It's just dabbing off blood. That's what I'm imagining. Is it's just more blood. He just wrings out the handkerchief.
Just continuously
stains the
pouring
floor.
Do you need to sit down, sir?
No, he's all right.
Whether I'm bleeding or not, I am inclined to pat myself dry. So I would say
He had a good lay down in the corn earlier.
We got him a nap. We stitched him up a bit. We gave him a little corn bandage there. He's all right.
I spent a few years in the service when I was younger. I never
Sir,
saw
I said he's all right.
combat, but are you sure? I might know how to stitch a wound still.
Please, Mr. Mason, we would be most appreciative despite Marlon there's rather vociferous objection.
Just did what y'all asked me to do.
He will sit Cyrus down at the table and take out, goes into a side room that looks like maybe a half bath, comes back out with a first aid kit and patches us up some, and thanks to the rules of Call of Cthulhu, he can heal up to 1d3 from any single injury with a first aid kit. Unfortunately, Cyrus has two separate injuries, so he is able to undo Marlon's stitching issue, but so you can give yourself 1 HP back from that, but unfortunately you are still down from the original head wound.
there's just like a corn cob stuck into an open wound, and he's like, "That's your problem right there. We just have to remove the entire
So,
corn cob."
Yeah, gets you bandaged up and everything. You're not bleeding anymore, but you do still have that damage from the original.
Fair.
Still a light
And
corn.
as he's fixing you up, his wife, Molly, will come back in. I imagine you guys also all introduce yourselves to her. And she's gonna kind of look among you and go, You're not those folks from that, well, you said I think they said it was a TV show, but I had never heard of it. Those ones out to look at the old Cobsham house.
Frat friends?
Do you happen to know the name or even just the topic?
Was something the Fratful Four or something like that. Said it was a TV show. I've never heard of it. I don't watch much television. I heard of that Ghost Hunters show. Been out a couple years now, but I'd never heard of this one. Some of the people in town said there were people from some ghost hunt show doing interviews. They talked to the mayor, talked to a couple of people. Hear about the Cobsham house.
The Cobsham house, you say? Now, why do you think that these ghost hunters you speak of would want to check out the Cobsham house?
It's just one of those places, though. You know the stories. If anybody wants to give me, if anyone has it, either psychology or psychoanalyst.
Sure.
Such a low percentage on that.
I imagine that might not be one that people would have thought to put a point in, but...
Got a hard success in psychology, 20 under 40.
Actually,
Ooh.
3 of us apparently invested
Yeah, no.
relatively heavily into psychology.
13
All right.
under 70?
Wow.
Oh my
wow.
god. 70?
Oh, yeah, I put points in that on purpose. I feel like there was some
Yeah.
mention of having it.
I think I mentioned it might have been a good secondary one to have.
Yeah, how many lay down couches were in the back of
So, yeah, you notice that she definitely has something else to say, and Marlin and Colm especially both notice that she's certainly hiding something in what she's saying about this Cobsham house, which I will type that into the Cobsham is Cobsham.
Now, ma'am, I don't mean to make you nervous. This is a lovely home you have here, and truly congratulations on the farm and the whole legacy of it. We're just trying to find out what happened to us in particular. So if you happen to know anything about this ghost show or the Cobsham house or anything about the production, we'd be awful grateful for that information.
Well, it's just one of those... Every town's got it, the haunted house. It's really not much anything. If anybody wants to roll either a persuade or a fast talk.
Oh. Well, I would... Now, ma'am, I don't mean to be the bloody caller of the morning, as we say around these parts, but I must goad you for just a bit more information, because I can see below that placid exterior, that unknowledgeable foundation bubbles. Seriously concussed. So he's gonna make a little...
Give me if Cyrus is the one rolling, do a minus 10% on his roll, because he is covered in blood and has a concussion.
65 under 70 then.
All right, that is a regular success. So she will say, well, truth be told, I've lived in this town my entire life. Jim, he thinks it's ridiculous that I want to stay in this old place, but Granny Abigail, this was her life. And, well, it's kind of a town tradition to break into the old Cobsham house. And I guess, actually, at the time I did it, they weren't even calling it the Cobsham house. They were calling it the Terrence house. But I did like everyone else did. I broke in there, and I heard some weird things while I was in there. I didn't see anything. I didn't see Terrence's ghost. I didn't see the ghost of his wife or his kid or anything like that. I didn't see the ghost of Cobsham, if he's even dead. But I heard some very strange things coming out of that house, and I had nightmares after I left that stayed with me for days. It's a bad place. I don't like it.
So, what can you tell us about this Cobsham? Or perhaps the other family you referenced, who may or may not be phantasmal aberrations?
I don't understand. So you're not that
Oh, well, no.
Frightful
Hold
fiends
on.
or
I'm
whatever?
sorry. I'm sorry. Yes, we are the frightful fiends. One moment here. Let me pull out my card. Let me hand it to you. That's definitely not what it's.
Which half do you hand her?
Okay, so you take this pot and you just press it against this pot, and we are the finders of fright, indeed. Hello, my name is Cyrus, and there is another pot, but I am having trouble recalling about half of my sentences at this juncture. Now, yes, we may be, in fact, the specialists that you are referencing, but please speak to us like the dilettantes that you would imagine asking such questions.
Okay, I just... Jim, honey, can you put some coffee on? And he starts making a pot of coffee, and she says, I just kind of figured, well, you've been asking around town for days. I thought you would know everything already, but, well, Mr. Cobsham, I honestly rightly don't remember his first name. He was some bigwig architect, was from here, but got real famous over in England, went over during WW2, and came back after he got rich, building all them British people some fancy houses. Built himself one right here. Was, I guess, the talk of the town at the time, according to my mother and according to Grandma Abigail. And then he up and vanished a few years later. And the family that his wife put in charge of taking care of the place, Mr. Terrence, he went nuts, killed his family, and then he died in prison. And that's when all the rumors started about the hauntings. Said his wife, his son, even Mr. Terrence himself showing up. Strange sounds, strange sights, people disappearing. You know, the standard haunted house fare.
Indulge my perhaps a bit dark fascination. How far away is this cursed establishment from this wonderful homestead?
Well, it's a ways down the road. There's the Plainsboro farm first, but maybe Plainsboro's there 3-4 miles down the road. You honestly came from their direction. I'm surprised you didn't go to them. Their house is probably closer. Maybe they didn't have their lights on. Jim's a light sleeper. But another 5 miles past them is the Cobsham house.
So about 8 miles the other way we came as the crow flies, you'd reckon?
Yes, road out here is pretty straight, about, 8 miles down the road to the east.
Was our car pointed away from the direction she's talking at? Like, were we coming towards?
Yes, you were coming from that direction, okay. And she does say at the end, 8 miles to the east, and you were coming from the east.
Might I inquire, on your farm property, do you happen to have a truck or something that might be able to pull our van out of the culvert in which it's currently stuck? It would be a might easier method to travel in those 8 miles, were we to do so in that van, should it be operational.
She'll say, well, no, I rightly don't, and he speaks up from where he's making the coffee. Have him call Sid. They can use the phone. Did you call 911 like I asked? Well, I called the chief's office, but I said I thought it might have been, the folks from the ghost thing. I heard you guys talking, and he just hung up the phone.
This chief, you said, hung up the phone when he heard we were ghost folks?
Yeah. Strangest thing. I was gonna call back, but then I saw Jim had already seemingly patched you up pretty good.
Do you know, had we talked to this chief fella at all?
I rightly wouldn't know. I just heard when I was in town yesterday that you've been talking around all over. But yeah, like Jim said, you can call up Sid's garage. He'll be able to come down to the car and get your van out.
Well, unless he hangs up the phone too. Seems like we might have made 1 or 2 enemies around town, but that doesn't surprise me based on what I know about traveling with these gentlemen for the last several hours getting out of that van. And we'll elbow I don't know, whoever's closest.
Virus directly into his forehead wound.
I was gonna say he goes out of his way to elbow Cyrus.
Opened another contusion on my head.
Yeah, but so they will, Jim will lead you over. They have a corded landline phone, and he kind of looks at it, goes, I know it's old, but there's no signal out here. You gotta have it.
Oh, absolutely.
And we'll give you guys the number to Sid's garage. And if you call up, hear a kind of gruff-sounding older man answer. Hello, this is Sid Finial. What can I do for you? Sounds very tired.
I'm imagining it's on speakerphone and the four of us are just grouped around like teenage girls. I said...
Hello, Sid. Well, my name's Cyrus, and we are actually in need of a serviceman at this juncture. We were referred to your person by a few kind individuals we happened upon. You see, our van is stuck in the culvert.
What, do you know what time it is?
Well, I mean, I would have called date and time if that was specifically my interest, but I don't mean to be fresh with you, my friend. I am in fact inquiring after a mechanic, as my vehicle is currently off of the road.
You got AAA.
Well,
and I will say Obadiah did have a AAA card in his wallet.
My guy.
See, Obadiah didn't know because...
He didn't know Obadiah.
Marlon is the one who looked in the glove box, and he doesn't have one in his clues.
I did not, unfortunately, make a AAA card, and I was making a clue card.
My immersion.
So we say yes and hang up. That's
You just hang up. You don't tell them that you're at the Fremantle Farm or anything. You just say no.
No.
You just always say that you have the AAA card, and they have to come.
Sure do.
So he kind of grunts to himself and says, all right, well, I can charge them whatever the heck I want, so I'm going to get my money's worth out of this. Where are you?
We've happened upon the fine folks at the Fremantle Farm. So I would reckon we're about, a mile to east of here. White van off the side of the road, headed west.
All right. Let me get dressed and get my truck. Gonna be about an hour. I don't think you realize exactly how far outside of town you folks are. But, I'll see you then. And he just hangs up.
Sorry, I was just laughing at the idea of him being like, I don't think you folks realize how long it takes me to get dressed.
You underestimate.
Sitting there holding up two, like, coveralls to himself.
I'm in my long johns.
It's August.
My boots don't fit over.
I imagine if you have some coffee with the Masons and make small talk with them over about the next hour. And I will say, if you ask, having passed the persuade check with her, they will give you a little bit more kind of info, just rumor mill stuff on this Cobsham house, which basically, like, pretty much what she said before. It's an old, beat up kind of mansion-y house. It's down the road. It was built by this architect who came into a lot of money overseas. She will say it was in the he disappeared in the early 60s, and it was in the late 60s, she doesn't remember the exact year, that Mr. Terrence, who she also doesn't remember the first name of, killed his family in the house. And she'll tell you that she broke in the mid-70s when she was a teenager, and
she heard things, is what she said, right?
She heard strange sounds that just made her feel very ill at ease, and she had awful nightmares for several days after, but she never saw any actual ghosts or anything. And she'll also say that when she was in town yesterday, up just buying groceries, feed, that kind of stuff, she happened upon a friend of hers who spread the gossip with her that there was a TV crew in town asking around, talked to the mayor, said talk to the realty agent in charge of the Cobsham house, talked to a few other people, but she doesn't know who. And she'll say she tried to look up the house, and she'll show you they have a one of those big Apple Macs, that's the all-in-one with the brightly colored back on it.
The big blue back or whatever.
Yeah, she said she could not find anything about your show that supposedly exists on it. And just after a while, you end up meeting this lovely gentleman. Shows up in an old beat-up pickup truck with the back half converted into a winch, has Sid's Garage written on the side of the truck, and he is exactly as grumpy in person as he was on the phone. Just, all right, I guess at least one or two of you should get in. I don't know if I can fit all four of you, and take me to this van of yours.
Well, it's registered in my name, so at least I should accompany you.
So Obadiah gets in the passenger seat, and he does have a very cramped back seat of this, which I guess someone else would have to get in before Obadiah if they're getting into that.
I will, if you don't mind, my good friend, given the hour and the lack of, I imagine, law enforcement in the intervening distance, we'll continue this constitutional out in the open air on the back of your vehicle. It just passes out kind of on the back, just lays down.
What happened to him?
He's lost a lot of blood.
He has been bleeding for hours.
You know, maybe it might just be, it might behoove Cyrus to, could I freshen up in your facilities just ever so slightly, perhaps remove the caked blood from my brow?
And the Masons will absolutely. And I imagine that he actually probably did that in the intervening hour. Like
I would like to
I think he's just
before
got the
they showed
bandage
up.
around him.
Yeah, I just have a bandage now, so I'm just like, it's
Yeah.
totally fine.
A corn husk bandage. That he just keeps dabbing.
It's all corn.
anyways.
I know, the bandage is so sweaty.
I would suggest, given the cramped space, perhaps we send off our the muscular friend here and our very tiny friend at the very least. And I suppose Mr. Peanutman and I shall take up residence in the back area then. You see, as a truck, we can all just hop on in here. Tuck Colm in through that little back window thing that the trucks have out into the. We could just slide him through there like a little plank of wood.
Just fold him up.
We're gonna try to really cram everyone in the back seat of the truck.
Into the back of that truck.
There's two people
Yeah.
hanging on to a winch. And call him in the back.
Like if you could probably cram everyone in there if you really do cram, but it's not going to be comfortable.
Yeah, it's just a mess of elbows. Yeah, I mean, anytime you're getting into a seat with Colm, he is a man that is just made of elbows. And
Ow.
no one's going to have a good time.
If this guy gets loose during another car accident, we are all getting eyes just poked right on out.
Yeah.
So you drive on down and gets out, looks at the van. He goes, "How in Sam Hill did you do this? It's a straight road. I know it was raining last night, but I mean, you didn't even hit anything. I mean, other than trying to take out half the power in the city. But were you drinking? If y'all were drinking, you gotta tell me, because I have to tell the chief."
My friend, do we look like we are in the midst of a good time? I can tell you with full assurance, the sobriety, the cold sobriety of a Sunday morning is beset upon the brows of all of my compatriots here. We found ourselves in this... Am I drunk? I should probably ask. Am I currently drunk right now? I'm probably not drunk.
No, you're not
but I feel
drunk.
like you would have told me.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because that
No,
would make a lot of
none
sense
of
for
you are
Cyrus's
drunk.
character. I mean, I've just been playing it as a head injury.
So we found no bottles of any kind, nor did we smell alcohol on our driver's breath. I suspect something else might have transpired, but there was no illicit substances or anything that may have impaired his cognitive function that I'm aware of, at least.
Alright, but I still don't know how on earth you did that. Alright. You and you. And he points to Obadiah and Colm. Help me get this thing hooked up, and three of you together get the winch hooked into the front bumper of the van, and turns it on, drags it up out, and he just kind of takes a look at it as it's attached to the back of his truck, and he goes, "This thing ain't going anywhere anytime soon. Well, clearly y'all ain't from here. Where are you staying? why am I even asking? You're at the home. Get back in. I'll drop you off there, and I'll call down when it's fixed. You got insurance on this thing, right?
Did he have insurance in the glove box?
Yeah, it has insurance.
Yes, indeed, sir.
Paperwork's in the van, and it is. The insurance is in there along with
Yes, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
He just kind of looks at you because I don't know if they had that logo yet in 2006, so I'm assuming they probably did. They probably had that
they've
logo
been
a
saying
million
it for years.
But he just goes, all right, well, I'll figure everything out. I'll call you at the home if I can't. All right, get back in.
The 20-minute process of everybody cramming
Cram on in
themselves
there.
back into the...
Cramming back into the... Yeah. So he drives back.
We're gonna...
You pass.
Yeah, I was going to ask him while we were, because I'm on the back, like gripping the back, so I'm shouting through the closed window. My friend!
You're sitting in the van.
Yeah, right. I'm shouting out of that window to him to the front.
Yeah. And I will say it is a long drive back, so you'll have time to ask him stuff.
My friend, regardless of whatever preconceptions you might have of my party, and I'm just wondering, what do you know about the Cobsham property?
Horror house? I mean, a haunted house. Every town's got one. That Terrence Nutjob blasted his family in it, and people haven't been leaving us alone about the damn place ever since.
Now, you said it's called the Horror House?
Asking about it, you don't even know the nickname, the Cobsham Horror House?
Well, us being city folks and not as learned as y'all, we're just trying to pick up as much information about this here house as we can. What stories might have you heard, sir?
I don't believe in any of that nonsense.
Sure, but what have you heard?
What I heard is some rich idiot with too much money and not enough fashion sense built himself a big, ugly house in my town. Then he up and vanished, and some other idiot went nuts. And now we have to deal with people like you asking about it.
Feels aggressive.
I'm just wondering, have you ever been inside of the horror house?
No. Why'd I do that?
Well, I'm under the impression that at least the more of the bon vivant youth around these parts have broken into this, well, shall we say, dark landmark.
He just, turns full around to look at you in the back seat while he's driving down this road.
It's very dangerous. We've already crashed once.
How old do I look? I was 38 when the Terrence murders happened. A little old to be doing youthful breaking and entering.
So you didn't have a friend or you tried it or anything? Maybe a neighbor, a grandchild?
Well, I would say, my friend, given what appears to be my supposed vocation, I don't think natural age has anything to do with interest in the unnatural world, but that is the difference between you and I. Do you have any first aid skills?
He fixes cars, not people.
Just passes out again. Yeah. I'm imagining it's a significant amount of blood if it's one hit point in this game.
Yeah, for folks listening at home that don't know, in COC you do not have very many hit points. It is not like D&D, it is not like Pathfinder. You're lucky if you got 4 or 5. It's a decent chunk of health.
Which is why Zach has been bleeding for hours.
No, Zach, not even the character. Yeah, no, I cut myself hours ago, and I seriously need to call the EMT, so we need to wrap this session up as soon as possible.
We as a cast are concerned, but we're just sort of well, I guess that's the sacrifice of podcasting.
The Daniel Day-Lewis of Zach's. No, again, I did not mean to insult you. I just, as you can probably understand, we are interested in anybody who has lived in this location's experiences with the property. So maybe you yourself may not have indulged, but do you have anything to share?
You're interested in it. You and everybody else lately, it seems like. Should hear about these idiots that came in out of, I think it was Tennessee or somewhere, maybe. The Demon Delvers or some dumb name like that. Asking around town. Actually, and he kind of looks at you guys. He looks back at the van. He goes, "No, are you?
No, we're not demon
Are you
delvers.
that-
Don't you worry about it.
Okay, all right."
Colm's just
Certainly not the name on my business card, and that's not a name we need to discuss. Now, you were saying us and everyone else. Now, there seems to be a consistent interest in this house. I mean, we're just really... You, my friend, I feel your talents are wasted behind this wheel and winch. I feel you have a story to tell.
Well, you feel wrong.
I
The
do,
story I have-
indeed. I think it's a head injury. But...
The only story I have is the one where all of you folks leave and get out of our town's business.
All right, I'm going to try. He's going to straighten himself up. Now listen, my friend. I may look the paragon of success back here, ringed by my production crew and business cards, which may or may not be in one piece. But I assure you I came from humble roots, my friend, and my mama would not handle nonsense, and my daddy absolutely would not. No, send me down to the pond he would.
You know the old saying.
But regardless, I need to impress upon you, we are not some big city thrill seekers. No. Look at us. We're salt of the earth folk. Look at that hat. Look at me. We, just like you, want to tell the story that's here in this land amongst this corn.
Give me a either a persuade or a fast talk, whichever you...
Oh yeah, I'm going with persuade. That was the goal.
I feel like that one really could have been either.
Okay, I rolled a 93 over 80. What the heck? You know what? No. He's
Are you
not
gonna
going to
push
do
it?
anything because I'm pushing it.
And for the folks
Thank
at
you.
home, so there are a couple of optional rules you can do in Call of Cthulhu. I'm allowing 2 of them involving rolls. One of them is being able to spend your luck, which then has the downside of if you have to make a luck roll, you don't have as much luck available for it. And the other is that you can push a roll, where you can tell me what you're going to do different after a failure and roll a second time. But if you fail again, you get a worse negative consequence than the original failure would have given you. So what Zach is going to do then is push this roll. So Sid just kind of gives Cyrus this look.
Okay, cool. So I pushed the roll. No luck spent. I rolled a 45 under 80.
Okay. So then what do you say after he kind of just gives you a death glare after the...
Like I said,
trying
no.
to heart it.
Look amongst us. Now, we may look like that form of Los Angeles Hollywood folk, those with their big cameras and their glitzy poof-poof makeup, but I mean, look upon my face here and see the blood that streaks across this dirty brow. I'm clearly willing to work for what it is that we want. Now, look at me, my friend, and tell me, you do not have a story to tell.
He just kind of looks at you and goes, like I said, I don't have a story. I leave that place alone, but if you want a story, I say you go look for these ghost hunter fillers. They, from what I hear, have been talking to everyone in town. They talk to the mayor, they talk to the police chief, they talk to that pretty lady from the real estate. I think they even went and talked to the Plainsboroughs out in the sticks. You find them, they can tell you everything without you having to talk to anyone else in town.
Really? Because
Yeah.
Well, perhaps we'll run into them at the Hemingford home.
Which coincidentally you say as you're pulling up in the outskirts of this small town in front of a rather beat up, definitely has seen some better days. 2-story motel with a neon green tube lighting wrapped around the top. Really ugly color scheme, kind of yellow and orange, green roof, which is in need of replacement, and it's got a sign out in front that says Hemmingford Home Motor Hotel. And he pulls up in front of it and says, "All right, this is your stop. Like I said, if you need to find out something about this frickin' house that everyone is always talking about, find these ghost hunter folks, or just ask around town, and I'll call up Dennis when I get this van fixed up, and he'll ring your rooms. I can't say it was nice meeting you folks, but it wasn't terrible."
Well, thank you, sir. Much obliged. Or
Yes, sir.
medium amounts of obliged.
It was certainly not the worst part of my night meeting you. That would be the terrible car accident.
So it's almost 7:30 in the morning, so I don't know why you're saying it's not, but
Well, I mean, I for one, would like to thank you and tell you that I was wrong. You do not have a story to tell. Perhaps you are best suited driving this truck. So thank you so much, sir. Have a good evening. Or morning, whatever time it is.
I'd like to take it back.
he just looks at you guys again like, these people are on something kind of look, and drives off into the town proper, leaving you in front of this beat up motel, or as the sign in front says, Motor Hotel. You see what looks like maybe like an old man or something kind of squinting at you from a window of an office in the front. And as he stands up, we are going to end it for this session, and hope everyone has enjoyed so far. And I will see everyone back for session 3.
Thank you, Jero.
Night, Jero, and thanks. Thanks and good night.
Hello, everyone. We are back for our second session of Jimmy Fame Presents.
That's it. That's it.
Jimmy.
Jimmy.
Bonus against the...
I appreciate the vote of confidence, my friend, but I can tell you I wouldn't know a medulla oblongata from a hot chicken sandwich from a state I'm not from. So I am clearly...
Maybe just hold a piece of corn on it for now
Just tuck that in there,
to
yeah.
staunch the bleeding.
Or maybe some mashed potatoes to go with your hot chicken
Hey,
sandwich.
let's cut out.
Well, that did not
That
make it
didn't
into
make
a
it off
final
that
production.
dang old editing floor. Just put that corn husk on my ear.
Peanuts.